what can be worse than to be silenced? What a conceding of dignity. Fear, people say that someone has courage, but what is courage? Courage is overcoming fear. That's what it is. But if you don't fall for fear, you don't need courage because you've got nothing to overcome. And, my philosophy is basically this. Instead of having consequences dictate my actions, I dictate my actions, and consequences will take care of themselves, not least because I don't really care. Why? Because if consequences mean I don't speak my truth, I don't say what I believe to be true, I don't have the right to my opinion, then there are no greater consequences for me than not having a right to an opinion, not having a right to free speech, not having a right to to communicate what I believe. That's the worst consequence of all. All the other consequences, this might happen, they might do this, might do that, are infinitesimal to me compared with the consequences that would manifest as you can't say and communicate what you believe to be right. So if I fall for the other consequences and shut myself down and silence myself and censor myself, then I've actually, in my way I view life, I've actually imposed upon myself the worst consequence of all. There's no worse consequence than being silenced or self-silencing, because from that every other freedom disappears. Freedom of speech is the foundation freedom from which everything else comes. There is no other freedom if there's not freedom of speech. And so that's the bottom line consequence. All the others will have to take care of themselves, because I'm not taking that bottom line consequence. I won't have it. If people just spoke their truth and refused to be intimidated into silence, they would see an amazing thing. They'd realize that the power over them has gone,
yes,
has disappeared, and that actually all along that fear that was controlling them was an illusion. When I was a footballer, I was a goalkeeper, and I used to sit in the dressing room. And the worst part of being a professional footballer for me was sitting in the dressing room before the game started, because all the things that could go wrong in the game were going through your head.
Yeah. When
you actually got on the pitch and started doing it, most of the time everything was fine. But sitting in the dressing room beforehand, what if I drop the ball? What if this? What if that? What the other? And that's how people live their lives. What if? What if? What if? Well, try it, and then you'll know what if, and you'll realize that what if is nothing like as bad as you thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
And what can be worse than to be silenced? What a conceding of dignity.
Yes.
What a conceding of self-respect to allow some external force, whatever form it may take, dictating what you should think and what you should say and what opinions you can have. It's outrageous, but people fall for it because they see consequences in massive terms when actually they're not as massive as they think they are.
Yes, perhaps a last question. Do you foresee an awakening of people, or do you foresee a collapse of the structure that tries to dominate us in the near future? And if yes, when do you foresee that? And perhaps foreseeing is not the right word. Is if you expect something soon.
One is necessary for the other. Because I keep going back to this, but our belief in the system on an energetic level is holding the system together. It's like people standing on each other's shoulders and forming a pyramid. While the people stay in the pyramid exists. people walk away from the pyramid collapses. Because what's holding it together is not there anymore. And our belief and our trust in the system and what it tells us to believe is actually a construct of consciousness that's holding it together. When we withdraw our belief in it, withdraw our dependency upon it and our belief in it, then it will fall because we no longer hold that consciousness construct together. It's like sitting in a prison cell and the prisoners are holding the walls up. But if they just walk away, the walls will collapse, and that's what will happen to this system. So we have to stop believing in it because it's a hoax. What we're told to believe, what I call the postage stamps consensus, this range of normal that is taught in the schools, the universities, the colleges, mainstream media, etc., etc., that belief system in what is perceived to be normal is what's holding it together. To be in that mode of perception that holds it together, you must believe in labels. You must self-identify with labels. The two go together.
Yes.
So when you stop identifying the I with your labels and you realize their experiences and you start identifying with the infinite I, consciousness, that very shift in self-identity will withdraw you from holding this system together because you will be withdrawing from the frequency in which this construct we call the world exists. It exists within a band of frequency. And if you only operate within that band of frequency, all your perceptions and all the information from which you form them is coming from within that band of frequency. You're in the world and of it. When you expand your awareness through expanding self-identity, you start to access levels of awareness, consciousness that are beyond the construct. And at that point, you start to see things. Certainly, you see that in completely different terms. You start to see through it. Instead of seeing dots, you see pictures and patterns. You start to realize what you're part of. And that's why they have to hold us in this concentrated focus level of normal perception, and to police it by giving a hard time to anyone who breaks out of it. That's the bottom line of everything. It's perception is everything. And you know that from one level because the whole conspiracy is based on controlling human perception. And you can either find a solution to a problem or you can withdraw the cause of the problem. The cause of the problem is that we've had our perceptions hijacked and focused. If you want to remove the cause of the problem, you withdraw from the program perception, and you let your mind wander into all possibility. And then the whole construct of control must fall. Because this ultimately tiny group that are at the core of this global spider's web of control humanity via humanity. We are that which creates this world. They are the ones that create this world via imposing and implanting our perceptions of this world, which then becomes a collective expression of itself that we call the world. When we, that middle conduit in this sequence, take our perceptions back and stop having them externally implanted, then that few, which can only control via the human mind, loses its power and the whole world changes. And if we lived in the world that we appear to be experiencing, a solid world of enormous limitation, and everything that is to change that world has to happen in a physical way, then I'd say, well, I'm wasting my time here. I might as well just live out the rest of my life and have as nice a life as I can, because I'm wasting my bloody time. Because we've got no chance But that's not the level that the change takes place.
Interesting.
The level, this world exists because of the programmed perceptions of humanity. Deprogram those perceptions, this world changes. Because it's just an expression of human consciousness made manifest. So from that perspective of how we change things, we can change them tomorrow. There is no time scale even necessary.